Alcohol, the fuel for narcissism, versus love, the fuel for life. A poem by Coach Stefan Rudolph. Breathe in life, live in life, love in life. Be one with yourself, be true with yourself. You will then become the new self, a self fulfilled with the love for a life that you were destined to have, and therefore destined to live. Love yourself, love others, and you'll begin to love life more and more every day. Coach Stefan Rudolph. There is no right or wrong in the mind of an alcoholic and in the mind of an addict. If there is any wrong, it is the blame they give to others of how and why their life ended up the way it did on their current path. That, my dear reader and my dear listener, is narcissism. Unable to take blame, unable to take responsibility, and unable to deal with shame. Unable to see life through the eyes and hearts of others, and unable to live because they are unable to love. A narcissist is fueled by alcohol, by escapism, by drugs, by anything and everything to not face life through the eyes and through the heart of others. How did I get here? I had to ask myself as I finished packing up my Ford Explorer with all of very little of what I had left materialistically in life and in this world. I had lost my marriage, lost my job, lost my homes, lost my car. At this time in my life, I had lost everything materialistically I had worked for my entire life to gain. The hardest part of this was to handle right now, at my current state in life, my deflated male ego. It was just 3 years prior I was at the top of society, living the American dream. I had everything materialistically, everything that one works for in America today. I was on top of the world financially. Yet still, deep down inside, I felt lost. I was not fulfilled. I was not content with myself and who I was in life. I was lost and truly not happy with my life because of being lost on the inside, not following my destiny, not being able to live with passion, live with purpose. Lost and not yet found. 15 years prior, I had barely graduated high school with a 1.7 GPA. Yet still, I had the heart. This heart fueled my newly discovered gut instinct and will, the will and desire to work hard and thrive versus survive. It was the fuel in me, through me, by me, with me, the drive that I had, the determination, the dedication to always be pushing forward. I naturally had that. I was born with it. I could feel it for my first 16 years. I did so by maintaining a positive mindset, setting goals, and working daily to achieve them. All by doing so, I pushed through this, got through the 1.7 GPA, worked hard in junior college and made it to college, and graduated with the undergraduate degree, and ended up successful in life. I had a wonderful marriage with a beautiful wife and was working for one of the top pharmaceutical companies in the nation, making 6 figures, while suddenly, all of a sudden, one day owning $1 million home in Anaheim, overlooking Disneyland. The dream had come true. Everything I thought, everything I fought, everything I pushed my way through to discover in life had become true. I had it all. Yet soon discovered, quote, all, end quote, was never enough, as my ego began getting louder and louder in my life for more. It never ended. Due to this poison inside me, I lacked true happiness in my heart for myself as I struggled to find who I really was. I was lost and not yet found. Quote, when When you're not happy with your current self on the inside, you'll never be happy with your life on the outside. Find your true self, and happiness will follow. End quote. A short 3 years later, I was on the verge of being homeless, and I had just sold my home to cover my gambling debt and my addiction to escapism through alcohol. With nowhere else to go, I had to move in with my parents at 34 years old. There I was, divorced, jobless, with a DUI, and now battling seizures that had returned in my life from years earlier, therefore eliminating my driver's license and the ability to ever drive again unless I had brain surgery. Things had changed. Life had changed dramatically, but my blame on others had not changed. All these faults and failures in my life were my own responsibility, yet it was my ability to not respond that killed me. I was not taking responsibility for all my outcomes of my own decisions and my own actions. Yet this entire outcome was too much to face for me. Escapism was on the rise, day in and day out. Gambling, drinking, everything and anything to not face life. I was not able to man up to the mistakes I made, man up to what I lost, man up to who I had hurt, and what my life had turned into now. My blame on others was based on my own egotistical mindset, a mindset fueled by alcohol and driven by money. Now that I lost the latter in life, the former took off in rage to dilute this new reality of failure that I was unable to face. The decisions I made, the mistakes that followed, and the losses that took place all fueled a new personality trait I was not familiar with up to this point, and really, totally, truthfully unaware that even existed in my life. That trait was the fuel from alcohol, turned into narcissism. Narcissism for me at this time was basically pointing one finger out at everyone else in the world around me and blaming them, yet having three fingers pointed in at myself at the same time and never being aware of it. Simply put, never having the ability to respond, responsibility, never having the ability to take the blame. More blame, less gain. That's what I learned. That's where I was at this point in life. More blame, less gain in life is what I was living, but not learning from. I blamed others for what happened and or did not happen in my life. Every time I failed, I pointed that finger out one more time. I felt my life should have been, could have been, would have been. What it should have been, could have been, would have been, kept repeating over and over in my mind day in and day out, and that fuel of insanity was fueled by alcohol. That cycle of insanity was never ending. Whatever the outcome, if it was negative, which nearly all the time at this point in my life it was, then all others were to blame. Not myself, not me, not I, them, those people. With the inability to see, discover, and acknowledge narcissism in one's life, that one will never have the ability to become one with their true self and grow. And that one was the one I was in and day out. That true self for me, deep down inside, that I wanted to have in my life and come out in my life to be my new life was my spirit. My love in helping others, my love for life, and my love for happiness, it was all in me, yet diluted by alcohol day in and day out. And with narcissism, it would never be seen nor felt. With a mind and a life now fueled by narcissism, I had a mind full of excuses and a mind and a life full of blame. I even blamed my battle with epilepsy that returned from a high school football injury 15 years earlier in life. And now, divorce, stress, everything falling apart. Losing my job, losing my company car, losing a 6-figure income, I began to blame and blame more day in and day out. I blamed it all on someone or something else besides the controller in the driver's seat of my life. That controller, that driver, was me. I couldn't look in the rearview mirror because I would see myself, and I would see my past, and I would see everything that I lost. Never taking in the fact that every time I thought to ask, truly, could there be just a small part to blame on the alcohol and my inability to control it? Could there be a weakness that I had, an addiction that I led, a lifestyle of addiction that I led? Could it be out there? I couldn't even ask myself that. My narcissistic mindset, of which controlled the ego, would instantly reply, "No way, that's not my fault." I also blame my former manager for firing me for my own DUI. I blame my now ex-wife for not sticking by my side. I blamed everyone that was not to blame. I blamed everyone and everything that wasn't me. Yet still, all along, I was unable to blame myself, my old self that had grew into my new self, The ego battled me day in and day out. The heart was unable to open. This blame game is what I later discovered as the number one characteristic trait of a narcissist. Again, as Wayne Dyer taught me, one finger pointed out, three fingers pointed in. This trait fueled me daily with excuses to drink, excuses to hit the bar, excuses not to face life, excuses to quit the jobs, excuses to not sober up, excuses that led to anger, resentment, hatred, and a very, very bitter outlook on life. I wanted revenge on those in my past. Now, not a bitter revenge, not a hurtful revenge, but more of an "I'll show you through my future financial success in life" type of revenge. The ego fueled that financial success, and I worked hard for it, not for myself though, not for the love of life, but for vindictive revenge, to get back to where I used to be financially. That's what I wanted. I'll show you. I pictured myself with cars, with homes, with women, and a lavish lifestyle. That view made my narcissistic ego from my past feel good. Yet even in the height of my latter financial success in life, my narcissistic ego was never, ever truly satisfied. Even after all the obstacles I dealt with epilepsy, even after brain surgery that followed my divorce, along with a pulmonary embolism, 2 epileptic car accidents, and multiple DUIs that followed over a 10-year period, I never woke up and nearly ended my life. During this time, every time I drank, I was fueling my ego's tank with leaded narcissism. The gas tank of my life was filled with the leaded narcissism, ready to ride the highway to hell once again in my life, over and over, fueling the feeling of invincibility again and again. Every 3 years, I would build up, get up, and grow up financially, but then self-destruct. Finally, I awoke in 2012 in jail for my 4th DUI in 10 and a half years. I had lost everything and was living in an RV, nearly homeless. Yet as Les Brown taught me, if you can look up, you can get up. And that I did. I never gave up. Over the next year, I worked to humble myself daily. I worked to subdue the ego by acknowledging it and speaking and working with it daily, hourly, even minute by minute. Every reason, every excuse it didn't want me to get up, work out, didn't want me to stay healthy, wanted me to go back and drink, I acknowledged it. Just like in the gym, if I told myself to do 10 push-ups, at the end of 10, I began pushing myself to 25. And then I got to 25, and the ego said, stop. I kept hearing this voice in the gym. That's enough. That's all you can do. Yet I pushed forward from 25 to 35 to 45 to 50 to 100. That was my new strategy in life. That was my new fuel. Acknowledge the ego. Welcome the ego. Welcome excuses. Then be strong, be tough, and most off, be aware. Be very, very aware. For without awareness, the ego will run free. The ego will frolic in a sense of never ending. And again, it is the fuel of narcissism that keeps the ego going. Now, this ego in my life was needed to restart my life, yet control of the ego and understanding what it's there for is what I needed to learn, and that which I did learn. I then began to fuel my life with a new fuel, a fuel of love. Love for my being, love for my existence, love for the opportunity to live again, and love for the new life that was forming every day around me and within me. And no, this was no longer narcissism. This was the true feeling of life and the true love for what life can and will bring when lived from the inside out. It was my new bio. It's what I called Bring It On. I said in my BIO, bring it on. I began welcoming obstacles for the fact that I knew they would make me stronger. Then, after a year or more of fueling myself with these steps day in and day out, through a sober mind and a clear heart in life, the mind and the heart, those two areas connected, and the mouth full of excuses in between these areas of the heart and the mind, slowly but surely shut up and disappeared. It disappeared through awareness. I saw the excuses come out of the egoic mind and try to battle it through the mouth, but my heartfelt passion began to win each and every time. Over the next 7 years, I recognized the ego's need to be acknowledged. Yet instead of fueling this ego with the main fuel of narcissism, that being alcohol, I began fueling it with reasons, plans, prayers, and strategies to grow in goals for helping others. That was my fuel. The ego's entity is conscious. I realized this. I called it out. I had won by seeing the ego's conscious entity. The spirit in the heart, through our soul, through my soul, is unconscious. Connecting the two is now possible daily in my life through meditation, awareness, and prayer. The new map system I had in my life, MAP, meditation and manifestation, focus on awareness of life and attitude in life, along with prayer and positive thinking. I connected those dots once again. Yet for the years before, of which I now saw, narcissism had blocked this connection. It was never fully connected. The outlet was never connected to the wiring. But now, upon sobriety, it was. It was now open and running smoothly and growing every day, day in, day out. I am now able to recognize the difference and prevent the ego from taking over again through awareness. The key intensity of fuel in a being who battles narcissism is competition with others. I was fully competitive, but always comparing myself to others. That of comparison, competition, and constant anger and vindictive feelings that others are trying to be better than me is what I dealt with for years. And that is how I live day in and day out, comparing my lifestyle, comparing my bling bling, comparing my income, comparing anything and everything to other people, and never truly looking within. Living in the feeling that others are constantly living their life to make the narcissist's life miserable is how I lived, feeling everybody was against me. When in actuality, the biggest competitor and the one that was holding me back, the hardest competition I had, and the one who ripped on me to no end, was the self of the narcissist in me, through me, by me, fueled by the ego. Yet it changed immediately when the heart connected. Wake up. become aware, change, grow. That is what the heart taught me. I woke up, I became aware, I began to change, and day in and day out, I began to grow. Take these words of wisdom and these words of actions with you. From this point of my awakening, I began to love life. From this point forward, I had a love for life, and not only for life as it grew in a positive area, but love for hardship and love for obstacles. I began to love the negative. I began to turn the FUs to thank yous. Over and over, the battle was continual. Yet by in doing so, I love myself from this point forward. No matter what anyone said, what anyone did to hurt me, no matter what anything and everything that happened in life, whatever life threw at me, I began to welcome it. Here is where I found the ability to control and defeat narcissism with love. It was a battle between good and evil, the yin and the yang in life. I found it, I lived it, and I loved it, and I know you can too. If you have a fuel that you cannot get rid of for more money, more bling, and the narcissism that fuels you by getting this, yet you're never happy, listen to these words again and again. Become aware, become awake, become risen in life by connecting the heart to the mind and eliminating in between the mouthful of excuses. Turn the FUs to thank yous. Thank you over and over again, every minute of every day. On the average for that 16 2/3 hour that you are awake, 16.67 times 60 minutes a day, boom, 1,000. Be thankful for that 1,000 times every day. I am here for myself. I am here for you. You are here for yourself, and you are here for you. Hopefully and truthfully, I know this connects with that one being out there, the one being that matters most, that being in you. Be the being of yourself, for yourself, by yourself, with yourself, in yourself, and your new self will grow. Never give up. Never escape. Drugs, alcohol, gambling, addiction. Know that that is the battle of the ego, the battle of the narcissism that wants to be fully controlled. You have to connect the heart and the mind. And hopefully, truthfully, honestly, believe in yourself every day. Be the being you've always wanted to be by loving the being you are currently being in life, and you will grow from there. No matter how bad your life is, no matter how bad it's been, continue to grow through the fuel of love daily. This is to your health, wellness, and personal growth. Coach Stefan Rudolph, recoveredcoaching.com.